as being 100% opposed.
Okay. How would you summarize Agenda 21 to someone if you had to, very briefly?
I've done what summarization I really can do. I've seen and heard people talk about it. It attempts to even get down to the level of community rights. But I really can't summarize it other than to say that the philosophy behind it is one that you'll find in the United Nations, rampant in the United Nations, and it's the concept that national borders should be ignored, that we shouldn't consider ourselves countries, that we should consider ourselves all part of one entity, which is, as the President has said, citizens of the world.
Yeah.
And I think that's bunk.
Okay. Some people would say sustainable development might be a brief summary of that. Is that your understanding of that? You know, sort of under the...
No, it goes way beyond that.
Uh-huh. Well, I mean, I understand that, but as far as that, that is sort of the, let's see, how can I phrase that, summary of what is said to be behind that and everything.
Well, I'm not willing to say that.
Okay, sure, I understand. Okay, I just wanted to ask you on that. Okay, let's skip to our next question. What about jobs? What do you see as the government's role, if any, in job creation? To what would you attribute the high jobless rate? If you see no government role in job creation, how do you think the unemployment rate could be reduced? What can be done about joblessness?
Jobs are created in the private sector. That's a simple fact of life. And to the degree that we allow the federal government, the public sector, to grow larger than the private sector, that damages the private sector. To the degree that we raise taxes, for example, that damages the private sector. And by raising taxes, I'm talking about raising the tax rate from what it is now. Every dollar that you take out of the private sector is a dollar that's not available to create a job. We have the best job creating machine on earth. It's called the free enterprise system. It's our private sector. The federal government takes up about 25 to 26% of our whole economy, and we've just now passed Obamacare, which takes over a sixth of our economy, the healthcare industry. It's outrageous, and I would say that I'm an enthusiast of the free market. When the framers drafted our Constitution, it is clear that they had in mind creating a free market economy, not a socialist economy, and that's why the progressives rail when we point out that they're going down a socialist path, because the Constitution is clear that socialism is unconstitutional. Our economy that is implied and laid out in the Constitution is a free market economy based on private property ownership. So we're not going to create jobs by adding to the federal budget. The way we're going to create jobs is to reduce federal spending to a level over several years to where we have zero deficit spending. And we can't balance the budget by raising taxes. We will destroy what's left of our private sector if we do that.
Okay, and so you're saying you would create jobs by reducing federal spending?
I wouldn't create jobs. The private sector creates jobs.
I understand on that. By reducing federal spending, do you have any specifics on where you would reduce?
I am an enthusiast of the Mac Penny plan, which is a plan that would scale down deficit spending to a zero deficit level over a period of 6 years. The Mac in that phrase is Connie Mack IV, who is a congressman from Florida, and I would urge you to get on the internet and take a look at the Mac Penny plan. It is a 6-year scheduled gradual decline until we get to zero deficit spending. I think that can be reduced to a 3 or 4 year rather than a 6-year scheduled drop-off. But that is if we enact the Mac Penny plan, that will instantly send a message to the private sector, which has been waiting for that sign. That will send an instant message to them that they can start hiring. There are trillions of dollars in being held back by the private sector that are ready to be used for job creation. They're traumatized because of the way this federal government has been acting. We've had a tsunami of federal regulations. We've got taxation waiting in the wings with this president and with the Democrat leadership. I almost use another word in the Senate. We've got to free the private sector up so that they will get engaged in what they're best at, and that's competition and the private sector business.
Thank you. Is the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, good for America?
It's completely destructive of Medicare. It's completely out of balance in terms of deficit spending. They've already had to step back from the class part of it, which was an absolute fraudulent piece of Obamacare, which was made and designed to pay for low-income people's extended care insurance. They've had to back away from that because they double-counted the money in that. Obamacare really is socialized medicine. It's designed to drive private insurance companies out of the healthcare business and leave us all on Medicaid. It is a disaster. It dumps millions of people into Medicaid ultimately without even considering how we're going to have the doctors and the professionals in healthcare to take care of that. It's outrageous. It's been sitting in some socialist drawer for 20 years, and then when their prayers were answered and they got a very left-leaning president and they have a bunch of left-leaning people running the Senate, and they were able to blow the dust off this socialist document, bring it out, and they enacted it. And if you remember, the president didn't even want to read the thing. He left it up to Pelosi and Reid, and that's how you get a 2,000-page socialist takeover of medicine. And I was going to say it wouldn't be so bad, but it's reprehensible to begin with because of the socialistic nature of it. But if it was in balance fiscally, that would be one thing. But it is an absolute deficit killer. So it's got to be repealed. And I would tell you that Schuler has voted. I think he voted against Obamacare because they didn't need his vote. They already had it. But then when it came up to be repealed, he voted against the repeal. So I would sponsor another bill to repeal Obamacare, and it's got to be done in the next 12 to 24 months because this thing is going to get entrenched. And it's a sixth of our economy. It is really outrageous, and I know I'm preaching.
Thanks on that. Let me ask you this. So you're saying you would work to repeal Obamacare.
Sure
would you?
I'd sponsor the
Right.
next repeal bill that goes in.
Yeah.
If I'm the congressman, will have my name as a sponsor.
Would you prefer to go back to how it was before Obamacare, or do you have an idea?
It was a better system before, but there are a lot of things. See, the Republicans, we make big mistakes when we get in control. We had the opportunity to fix several things in connection with health care. Pre-existing conditions could have been fixed. The actuarial analysis of that made it affordable to attend to that issue. We did not, as Republicans, when they had control of the legislature. As a result, we left that thing open for the Democrats to come in, the progressives, and capitalize on that. There are people in this country who have gone bankrupt because of health care. That shouldn't happen. There are people who couldn't get insurance because of pre-existing conditions. That can be changed without changing the whole health care system and dumping us all on Medicaid. But see, by not addressing those things when we had the chance, we leave the door open for the Democrats to come in with a 2,006-page abomination. And so that's the kind of thing that Republicans have got to get their heads straight the next time. We don't have the luxury of waiting on a lot of these issues now.
Okay, thank you on that. Is the deficit a problem for the United States? If so, how would you fix it? If not, why not?
The McPenney plan, please look at it on the web. The deficit will drag us down into oblivion. Our country 4 years from now will not be recognizable. I can't emphasize that enough. I'm 61 years old. I see a few gray heads in here. It's not going to be the same country that we grew up in if we allow deficit spending to continue. We're borrowing 40 cents for every dollar that we spend. We cannot do that. And we can't just turn off the spigot and stop deficit spending at the snap of a finger, because even if you could do that, which you can't, that would send us into a depression worse than what we've got. So you have to scale that down, and that's what the McPenny plan is all about. Not raising taxes, but lowering government spending down to zero deficit. So yes, it is an existential issue for this country. We will not be America if we don't stop this deficit spending and then start in on the $16 trillion national debt.
Thank you on that. How would you fix America's immigration situation?
The immigration situation has to start with policing the borders. And I'm not sure why. I must tell you, I've been around for 61 years. I'm a prosecutor for 18 years. I got a law degree and an economics degree, and I do not fully understand the disconnect between us in this room and Washington on the immigration issue. We cannot have a safe America unless we police our borders. That is a basic piece of national sovereignty. And why both Republican and Democrat administrations have refused to fully do that is a mystery to me. We have made some headway when the Republicans were in control, and we've got to continue to make headway towards the ultimate policing of that border so that we know who's coming in and can track them. Now, I will also say that I'm from Transylvania County. My biggest county in my prosecutorial district is Henderson County, and we grow apples like crazy. And the farmers in Henderson County tell me that they have got to have some kind of a guest worker plan that's efficient in order for them to continue to do what they do agriculturally. And so I support a very vibrant, strong guest worker program. But I will tell you, if you have come to this country illegally, you have to go back to the end of the line before you can get your citizenship, unless you go into the military. Yeah. If you go in the military and you protect this country, you go to where we send you, then we ought to have some kind of mechanism to where you can go to the head of the line to be a citizen of this country. And that's the most important property right on earth, is citizenship in the United States.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it very much. And that's the question, sir.